Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services in Eastland, Texas. Tune in every week as we share important information to help you and your family live life on purpose. Insurance, investments, legacy and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
Welcome to Life Planning 101. My name is Angela Robinson with Kennedy Financial Services here in the great town of Eastland, Texas, and we are so excited to bring to you a very positive topic for today, inflation. Well, maybe not so positive after all, but what the heck is happening, right? This thing called inflation is something that we just don't even understand, most of us as Americans. I mean, tons of Americans every single day are going to the grocery store and leaving with less or less quality and paying more. And not too long ago, it's like everything felt so good. There was plenty of cash flow and plenty of spending dollars. You just couldn't spend it because you couldn't go anywhere because of COVID. But it did feel good. And all of a sudden, it's squeezed tight, super tight. And it's getting tighter. And I tell you what, I was looking up some stuff for the article today, and I came across a meme, and it was a picture of a gas station that was advertising their gas prices. And I suppose it's real. It could have been photoshopped, who knows. But the picture literally said regular unleaded, arm, plus unleaded, leg, super unleaded, both. Now, I look at that, I'm like, okay, of course, there's talking about prices, right? But we can chuckle and, say, oh, this is funny. But then we look in our pocketbooks and we really don't think this is all too funny. An 8.3% inflation rate is, well, at least that's what it is by the indexing point. Now, what is the actual inflation rate on some goods and things like that? You can go research anything you want to find. And there's a lot that's a lot more than 8.3%. But it is hovering, even at 8.3%, nearly a 40-year high is where we're at. So think about that. 40 years ago, even a 70-year-old today would have been 30 years old at that time. So most Americans cannot even fathom, relate anything to this. We just don't even know what this is. And even those that are in their 70s or in their 60s that did see it and do remember it probably didn't know any different because that's how they started life. In fact, things got really cheap all of a sudden and life was good. They kind of got the best part of the story. So I guess if you look at the bright side, the people that are starting out today are going to think, life's a cakewalk when inflation rates get back to normal. But the bottom line is history really does repeat itself, right? We've got an inflation that's kicked back into high gear, this thing that every financial advisor in the world has been talking about, putting in their projections and putting as a risk pool. Literally, it's a stress test. How much inflation can this actually incur before blowing up your retirement plan and you run out of income in retirement? That's a real deal. And everybody over the past just kind of blew it off because it hadn't been something to really worry about. And now it is something really to worry about. So what does all this mean? It means that, Lucy, you have some explaining to do. And I don't mean inflation itself. I mean when it comes to your financial plan, because this is the time that you're going to really have to tighten your belt. Tighten your belt the way it's never been tightened. Because if you don't tighten it now, the risk to you, the risk to your future is massive, absolutely stinking massive. And yep, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about on Life Planning 101. As always, a light topic when we come back. Welcome back to Life Planning 101. We are talking about none other than the topic that is on everybody's mind. Even Stephen Colbert, I think, was the one that said it's just made small talk better. Inflation. The cost of living going up. And yes, we chuckle about it. Yes, we're all in the same storm. Obviously not the same boat, but we are in the same storm. And it is bad. it is super bad. Let's just face it. It is not creeping up. It is going up like a super rocket. And I was looking at some facts and figures, and probably one of the most stark images was looking at the actual Bureau of Labor Statistics CPI index. And I encourage you to get on our website. Make sure you download the newsletter this week. It's going to give some more detailed information in there about this, but it's www.kennedy-financial.com, and you can see this graph in there, and it's just astonishing. Looking back when COVID was in place, it was almost at zero, right? And here we are at 8.3%. So that's an 830% increase. Think about that. That's just huge, And so, when we think about the effect of that, it really is like, okay, that's just too big to fathom, but then it's not, because you really are feeling the effects of this on your pocketbook. So what can you do about it? And the reality is there's a lot that you can do about it. You may want to just use it as a scapegoat to have that small talk, have something to complain about, have something to make excuses about or blame about, but you not only can do something about it, you should be doing something about it, because this might be the most detrimental piece or part of your entire financial plan for your future. Why do I say that? Okay, well, everything is tied to interest rates. And I say everything. I'm sure there's some things that are not, but most everything is tied to interest rates. And interest rates are rising quicker than they have risen in a long time. And the Fed is announcing that they're still going to keep trying to fight this inflation, rising interest rates. So if they're going to be doing that, it's not only the inflation that is the enemy here, it's also the rising interest rate environment. And you say, well, that could be good, right? Because if I put money at the bank, then I'm going to get paid more on my CDs and my money markets and those types of things. And that can be true, ? And the reason I say question mark is because that number is usually lagging the inflation number, not ahead of it. So you're probably still losing money. And then if you're locking yourself in even longer term to get longer yield, then you're probably losing more money. And that's all things you need to be talking with your investment advisor about. But not only that short-term cash, interest, everything else, but I want you to think about this. Your investments are affected by inflation. When there's supply chain issues, just think of how that trickles down. My kids have these books. They're called the Tuttle Twins. They're really cool books. They're about economics. They don't even know they're learning about economics, but they are. It was like all the things it takes to make a pencil. And it blew my mind, really. And they said not one person in this whole factory can explain how a pencil is actually made. And the point is there's so many pieces of the supply chain to make that pencil actually that pencil. It's unbelievable. It's unfathomable. And our entire world is built that way. It's interlocking. You don't just have someone handcraft something start to finish on their property almost ever. Even if you have someone that builds furniture, they're going and buying that wood somewhere else. And that wood is purchased from some lumberjack somewhere else. And there might be 3 steps in between that I don't even know about, right? So everything is interlocking. And interest rates are part of all of that. Part of every bit of that, from the lending that occurs to those businesses, to the time value of money, to anything, right? So we don't realize how much it does affect us. And those companies that are trying to grow and expand, they're even more subject usually, because they're actually putting more dollars out there in the loan world, right? So they've got more interest rate potentially. So it's extremely, extremely, extremely important that you're working with your investment advisor. It's no longer like a blind monkey throwing darts and making money in the market like you've been able to do for almost a decade now, believe it or not. But yeah, it's not like that. And you're starting to see this unravel. You're starting to see this shakiness start to occur. So it's really important. But here's some other things that you might not know about. What about your insurance? This is important. Your insurance is tied to interest rates. Specifically, your life insurance is tied to interest rates. When's the last time that you had an X-ray done on your life insurance? Not just a statement that doesn't tell you shenanigans. I'm going to tell you. Just doesn't tell you anything. I can't even hardly see anything besides, who owns the policy, who's insured, who the beneficiary is, and how much the death benefit is, and if there is cash value, what's the cash value, and if it made any money, I can see that. But that doesn't tell me how the policy is actually performing and how interest rates could affect that policy based on little bits of increases within the policy. Yeah, could be detrimental. And then, if you're a business owner, are you borrowing cash? How much of that has, 5-year rolling rates, or maybe it's on an adjustable rate already? Are you subject to interest rates going up? But what about your other borrowing? What about your home? Oh my gosh, this is kind of like ringing some bells back from 08 and 09. We kind of went through this thing called this bubble with the mortgages. Yes, get your act in order because you need to do it now before it's too late, before the pain is so unbearable that everything starts to unravel and fall apart. And either, if you're retired, you're going back to work. If you're not set up right, then you're making drastic lifestyle changes. You don't want any of that. So get busy. Get busy analyzing your entire financial picture right now if you haven't already. Because things are moving, a little fast if you haven't noticed. So when we come back, there is more on this topic. Yes, inflation is hurting, but yes, there are things that you can do within your control to help your future. You're not going to want to miss it right here on Life Planning 101. Welcome back to Life Planning 101. My name is Angela Robinson with Kennedy Financial Services, and we are talking all things inflation. Is your pocketbook hurting yet? Because I know a lot of people's are, and it's getting worse every day. And I have to tell you, I was wrong on the Stephen Cohen thing. It was not him that said inflation is making small talk better. It was Trevor Noah, who also said this on The Daily Show. He said, consumer demand is sky high, but the supply chain issues mean there is not enough products for people to buy, and that drives up prices. And then on top of that, Vladimir Putin decided that, now would be a nice time to Airbnb Eastern Ukraine by force, which raises oil prices, making everyone's life more expensive. So yes, this is the reality that we're living in. No one can control it. Everybody and their dog is pointing fingers right now. There are things that could happen policy-wise, but none of that is going to happen drastically. So what can you do? And if you missed the second segment, I'm going to tell you, you got to go back and listen to it because we talked about kind of the advanced financial pieces that need your attention ASAP. But in this segment, we're going to talk specifically to the here and the now of your pocketbook and the stuff that you're probably feeling. So here's, consensus. Everybody's saying, maybe we'll just stay home, rent a movie here instead. Maybe we'll just eat in. Maybe we'll just wait to do that big trip or hold off on remodeling the kitchen for a bit. Or, I could probably not buy that organic that, and I could probably buy that generic brand that. I really should start cooking. We could grow a garden. We could raise chickens. We could have eggs, right? So all these thoughts are crossing people's minds all over the country. And these little Jiminy Crickets that are on everybody's shoulder are just getting louder and louder and louder, my friends. So if I were you, okay, Jiminy Cricket is not sitting there doing that for no reason. That's just good common sense. It's good wisdom telling you that you need to take a kind of a look-see at your life and make sure that you've got your ducks in a row, and now is not the time to be going out there blowing and going, but instead, it might be a time for reflection. Just taking a stop and looking at things for what they are. So twice today, I have seen this word of caution. Once was in my devotion and talking about priorities. And then the second was an actual quote by Abraham Lincoln, whom I love, and this quote I love. He said, discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most. That's stuff that we buy probably won't be important in the long run. In fact, I know it's not going to be important in the long run. It's time right now, while we're going through this, to look at your priorities. Where are you spending your dollars? What are you spending them on? And I recommend that you look to 3 places and 3 places only, and everything else off the docket. And here's the 3 places. Number 1, oxygen. I'll explain that in a minute. Number 2, experiences. I'll explain that too. And number 3, other people. And I want to be clear about what I mean there. So oxygen. We all have to breathe. We all have to live. I say have to. We should live healthy and happy, right? We want to breathe, live healthy and happy, enjoy life. But stuff doesn't do that. We get it all wrong in this first world country. There's no doubt about that. But stuff doesn't do that. Necessities do that. Good choices, lifestyle choices. We eat right, we exercise, we take care of ourselves. We go to the yoga class and get all that blood flowing, whatever that is. But whatever oxygen is, it's different for everybody. But we've all got to have some source of oxygen. So you have the oxygen, and then you have what isn't in your life. And that needs to become very, very, very clear. Then experiences. The newness on stuff wears off pretty quick. When was the last time you bought like a new car or something? Just think back to that time, and gosh, you were excited, right? You're so excited about that new car. How long did that excitement last? Yep, it went away, didn't it? And then you keep it long enough, and what's it become? Oh, that old piece of junk. This is true. This is what we do. And there isn't much you can do with junk unless you like American Pickers to come your way, and you better have good junk for even that. So experiences, on the other hand, have quite a bit of shelf life, okay? And what do I mean by that? I tell you what, I absolutely cherish some of the things and traditions that we have within our family. I cherish that we play a lot of games. I cherish that. Last time we were playing this game about nuts about mutts, and it's just so funny, and kids are laughing, I'm laughing, and gosh, I cherish that. I'm going to have those memories for the rest of my life. I cherish the ski trips that we do together at Christmas. That's so important to me. Our kids just absolutely love that, and it's funny. Oh, I can't tell you about the laughs we have there. We have laughs living in the country. We love that. Animals are funny. Kids are funny with animals, and those are experiences that I wouldn't change for the world. So the best part is that as long as I have a sound mind, and my kids do too, we have those to keep enjoying over and over again. The newness never wears off of them. Wanting more stuff is a first world addiction, really. If we want to call it what it is, it's a first world addiction. Keeping up with the Joneses, having 2 jobs so you can do more, and are you really doing more, have more, whatever, but then you're chaos and stressed, and it's an addiction because it's not even a healthy one for most people. On the other hand, it is a blessing to be a blessing. I tell people all the time, I get to do that every day for my career, and I love that, my vocation. I absolutely love that, and I don't take it for granted. I pray about it. And, I never would want to do anything that would hurt anyone. And so that's my number one prayer, is that I'm always being able to be wise with the advice that I give. But, the reality is this: it is a blessing to be a blessing. And there are so many ways to do that, to give your time, to give your money, to give your resources, to give your talents, to give your laughter, to give a hug. There's so many ways to do that. And we're always thinking about the stuff before we think about the gifts. And of course, okay, there are the gifts to the kids, and that maybe the best gift would be to say no. I actually was reading about how this post-pandemic world, how many people in their 20s have had to move home, and now they can't move out because the cost of inflation is soaring, and rent is soaring, and it is an extremely big problem in our nation. And sometimes, we've got to cut cords to make things work. And think of it this way, starting out today, when it's one of the toughest times to start out, it's going to make someone stronger because of it. And sometimes that's the best gift. But of course, that's a topic for another day. Truly helping someone is a gift for that someone. But it's also a bigger gift back to you. So oxygen experiences in other people. What are you spending your money on? Where's your dollars going? And I think it's time to listen to Jiminy Cricket and have an idea about what this needs to look like, because everything else that you've got going out the door probably needs to be going back to try to keep up with this beast called inflation. It bites. Inflation stinking bites. But I'm going to tell you something you may not want to hear. It doesn't bite as bad as our bad habits. And I can speak almost across the nation as Americans and say that. We got some bad stinking habits. We don't need half the stuff that we have, yet we keep wanting more. And this could be a great wake-up call if we'll let it. We'll let this nasty little thing that we'll have decades and decades to talk about, just like, we saw the last generation be able to talk about nasty little inflation, and let it teach us something rather than just being a scapegoat. And, at the end of the day, if you really look at this, you may not be able to control the price of things, but you can control the priority of those things. So, scapegoat or not, you now know the truth. Progress starts by telling the truth. It's up to you to do something about it. With that being said, I hope and pray that you will take this as wisdom to be able to put a good foot forward and make some changes or do some things that you look back on and you say, man, I'm so glad that I did that at that time. Because I promise you this, if you work on any of this that we talked about in today's show, you're not going to regret it by any means. Even if inflation just disappears tomorrow, you'll be happy you did it. My name is Angela Robinson with Kennedy Financial Services. Thank you for listening to Life Planning 101. It is a blessing to be a blessing, and we enjoy having all of our listeners every single week. Please join us next week on Life Planning 101. You're not going to want to miss it. God bless you.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services. If you have questions, you can email them to lifeplanning@kennedy-financial.com. Don't forget to learn how our sister company can assist you with all of your tax, bookkeeping, and consulting needs. You can find out more at briscoeandassociates.com. Be sure to tune in next week for more Life Planning 101. The opinions expressed herein are those of the firm and are subject to change without notice. The opinions referenced are as of the date of publication and are subject to change due to changes in the market or economic conditions and may not necessarily come to pass. Any opinions, projections, or forward-looking statements expressed herein are solely those of the author, may differ from the views or opinions expressed by other areas of the firm, and are only for general informational purposes as of the date indicated. Securities offered through Calton & Associates Incorporated, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Smart Money Group LLC. Kennedy Financial Services and Smart Money Group LLC are separate entities and are not owned or controlled by Calton & Associates Incorporated.